Hello everybody. This presentation is going to teach you about equivalent fractions. I'm going to teach you what equivalent fractions are, how you can identify them, and then how you can make your own equivalent fractions. So when I'm looking at the word equivalent, I can kind of get some ideas about what equivalent fractions might be just by looking at the word equivalent. I notice the prefix on the word equivalent, EQU, and that reminds me of another word, the word equal. Equivalent fractions are just fractions that are equal. Although they may not use the same numbers in the numerator and the denominator, they actually represent the same things. So, for example, let's take a look at this fraction bar. Everyone knows that my favorite candy bar is Hershey's with almonds, so we'll pretend like this is a chocolate bar, a Hershey's with almonds. I notice that my Hershey bar is broken into two pieces. Those two pieces are going to represent halves. My denominator will be 2 because there are two pieces. Now, let's just say that I'm feeling pretty generous today, and although this is my favorite candy bar, I'm going to share it with my favorite friend, Miss Coleman. So if I give her half of the candy bar, she has eaten 1/2, and I've eaten 1/2. We've represented the fraction 1/2 with this candy bar. Now, in order to make an equivalent fraction to 1/2, I'm going to use this fraction bar. Let's say we have another Hershey's candy bar, but we want to break it into 4 pieces instead of just 2. Now my denominator will be 4 pieces. How can Miss Coleman and I still eat half of the candy bar if it's broken into 4 pieces now? Think about that for a second. Also, take a look at the fractions. How can Miss Coleman eat half of the chocolate bar and Miss Sims eat half of the chocolate bar if the bar is broken into 4 pieces? Well, you might notice that if I color in 2 of the fourths, I can see that 2/4 is equivalent to 1/2. I just have different numbers to represent it. Are you catching on? Great, I'm sure you are. If you're not, let's take a look at this last piece. I still have one whole chocolate bar, but instead of breaking it into halves or fourths, now my chocolate bar is broken into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces. That will serve as my denominator. How can I represent half of a candy bar when my denominator is in eighths? That's right. I'm going to eat 4 of the eighths. If I eat 4/8 of the candy bar, it's the same thing as eating 1/2 or 2/4. So it would be fair to say, or a true statement, if I said that 1/2 is equivalent to the fraction 2/4, and it's also equivalent to the fraction 4/8. All of these fractions are equivalent. Now, do you see a pattern in the denominator? Do you see a pattern in the numerator? Do you think you can make your own equivalent fractions? I bet you can. Now it's going to be your turn to talk about equivalent fractions in your group.